No free agent news to report. So we're going to dive back into our list of free agents that you forgot the Twins had signed. We're going all the way back to the end of the Metrodome days, early Target Field days, to bring you some free agents that you probably forgot about. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. Follow me on the skeets. Here are the deets at warren.bsky.social. And I am joined, as usual, by Mr. Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown on the tweets, at AnswerDave.bsky.social on the skeets. What up?
Ahoy, Brandon. Merry pre-Christmas to you, and also pre-Happy Hanukkah to those of you who celebrate. And Kwanzaa also starts on next week.
And Boxing Day, I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's Festivus, as someone who's gotten into someone who's gotten into Seinfeld recently. In fact, kind of funny, someone who recently followed me on Blue Sky, and I don't remember their name now, but it's the Seinfeld writer whose father was the inspiration for Festivus. And so, yeah, that was kind of cool. Don't have the name off the top of my head. I've been working on other
baseball-related guy, too, or a fan of the Mets or something?
Probably. I would assume that's the angle. But thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And, of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we are your team every day. We love to hear from you in the comments, whether you're just giving us a shout or giving us your opinion. Give us a 5-star review, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, whatever you can to help us drive the show forward. We love you for that, whether you're watching on the premiere or just on YouTube any old time. But as I've said before, I'm in the holiday mood. And if you show proof that Locked On Twins was in your 2024 Wrapped on Spotify or anything comparable on any other streaming platform, or you leave us a 5-star review and subscribe on YouTube, I will send you a care package for Christmas of some baseball cards. So again, super easy. Just send me proof of it, whether it's on Blue Sky in the DMs, Twitter in the DMs, Facebook in the DMs. Send me a certified letter. If I get it, I'll send you some goodies for the holiday season. We greatly, greatly appreciate you. And speaking of the season that we're in, this episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoff, which is here. And you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff is presented by Allstate, and it's beginning with 4 first-round games in today and yesterday. So 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. And I say it like that because that's how the Grinch would greet his dog in the Jim Carrey. I almost said Tom Carrey. I don't know what Tom Carrey is.
Very timely.
Yes. So Max is the Jim Carrey Grinch dog. So
well, don't expect the Notre Dame and Indiana game on Saturday, because that's the one they played on Friday, and it wasn't very close.
No. I have to get out in front of this. It was kind of funny. We had a comment on our last episode on YouTube, and I'm not trying to run this person through.
Sure, you're not.
But they said, "What is this? Locked On Nationals? Locked On Mike Soroka? This entire episode was about Mike Soroka." And I'm like, yeah, well, I understand, and I want to hear from people how they feel about our show, good, bad, or otherwise. But, like, really all we can do at this point, Twins haven't done anything. We have to kind of look at other moves and what they mean for the Twins. And not only what they mean for the Twins, but what they mean for the Twins in terms of what they're going to subtract. Like, it's a tough spot to be in. And that's, as a result, the reason we're doing a lot of these.
As a podcaster.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of these episodes of former free agents that you probably forgot about. And I'm sure the younger fans don't love those because, for instance, this episode is 14, 15 years ago, free agents. So we're trying to do our best. The Twins have done nothing.
Are you telling me that you want to talk more about Mike Soroka today? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is, like, the best thing going for me right now that I'm taking credit for is that I tweeted Gary Sheffield's son, the aptly named Gary Sheffield II, that I thought the Yankees would miss out on Juan Soto and then circle back for Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Now, timestamp, that was on November 8th that I said that. And now John Denton of MLB.com and a few other types are starting to make it sound like that could actually happen. So I might get on that. What's the opposite? The freezing cold takes, whatever the opposite. Oh, they already knew. Blazing hot takes. So we could see me appearing on there sometime soon because I think I cooked on this one.
That's a very interesting possibility.
Yeah.
That now I'm a Goldschmidt believer, despite the loss in in swing speed, bat speed. They call it bat speed, but maybe it should be swing speed. I just thought of that now.
Yeah.
And the age and all that stuff. And Arenado, he kind of he took a header last year too, and I think
very reminiscent of the Cardinals last year.
Yes, and you can't totally blame those two guys for the Cardinals kind of stinking it up the last 2 years, relatively speaking. But it would be interesting, let's just say, if the Yankees said, you know what we need to do? Oh my God, there's a child. There's a child. Hello, little boy. What do you want for Christmas?
We've got company.
Arenado.
He said Arenado. He wants Arenado.
He wants Arenado? Well,
I don't
know if we're going to get Arenado on the Twins, boy.
No. Well, that's what he wants. So boy gets what he wants. No, what's funny to me, though, is that this is the vintage, like, not to make fun of them, but at the vintage Yankees, like the leftover remains of, well, Andrew McCutchen actually still was decent after, but they had like Ichiro, Ivan Rodriguez, Travis Hafner. I mean, there had been Andrew Jones. There have been a lot of guys who have been sundowning in the Bronx. This is going to be, I think both of them can still play and may, in fact, have a nice little bounce back. But Yankees fans who are, one, frustrated they lost Soto, two, frustrated that they lost the World Series, three, frustrated they haven't won a World Series in 15 years. They're going to see these moves as not positive, even though there's a very real chance both of those guys could have a nice little uptick.
Let me just spit this out because it's been hard for me to just come out and say it. It would be kind of funny if the Yankees were just irrespective of their history with this kind of move. Yeah, you know what? To get us back to the World Series, we need to grab Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, who did not help the Cardinals get to anywhere near the World Series. And
join up with DJ LeMahieu, who Yankees fans are just fed up with.
I understand why they've turned on DJ LeMahieu, but when that trade was made, the Yankees fans mostly, like the rest of the people, didn't like it because they thought he was a product of Coors Field, and they got some really good seasons out of DJ LeMahieu. And they can't, I understand that he's not, it appears that he is also in the twilight, and they can't expect that out of him anymore. But it's like, you guys were never happy with him in the first place when you got him. And now you're complaining about him 5 years after he fell off the table. And it's like, you never really gave him his flowers in the first place. So, and I'm sure there's like Yankees fans out there. Oh, you're not right about that. But I remember things, and that's how it was. It would just be funny if the Yankees are like, Goldie and Nolan, save us. And they're just coming from the Cardinals, who were like poster underachievers the past 2 years. So, but that's been, you talked about the Yankees going back and getting guys. That's been a Yankees move, and it's worked sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like I'm thinking of Darryl Strawberry in the 90s, and it goes back longer than Andrew McCutchen and all that. Yeah. When the rest of the Yankees are on the cusp of the World Series, it's good to bring in those guys, but it's another to like lean on them to be both of them to be your everyday corners. It's just,
Scott Brocious and Charlie Hayes are more along the lines of like bit players, not the guys.
I don't want to call them rejects, but guys who were starters other places, and then maybe the shine came off them for a little while. But that said, I think adding actually to Juan Soto, if you added Arenado and Goldschmidt, I think that would have been good. I think that, but you take away Juan Soto and you're asking Goldschmidt and Arenado to do all the heavy lifting. I think the Yankees figure out a way to like be the number 2 spending team in the league and still be cheap.
And just
That's what they are now. You know, that's
Yep.
and I don't that's a trick bag to get yourself into, but they've managed.
Yeah. So if you add one poster child in Goldschmidt and you add another poster child in Arenado, that's poster children by definition, not poster childs, right? I mean, you have to follow the tense and grammar rules.
I wish there
right?
was a Childs. There's been a Childs, Chris Childs, in the NBA, but I can't think of a Childs baseball player.
Knicks. Vikings had a guy named Greg Childs that blew out both of his tendons in his knee. I mean, it's a cursed name, but anyway, let's take our first break and then we'll dive into. We got 5 guys, no burgers, no fries to talk about.
I had 5 guys last night and they nailed the fries.
Oh,
absolutely nailed the fries. They were perfect. Well, so that was a good experience. 5 guys a sponsor? No.
Nope. We're happy for you though. Genuinely happy for you. We got a lefty specialist, a right-handed reliever who the Twins signed. I don't think ever actually did anything for him.
A lefty specialist, so like Bernie.
Yes, exactly. But don't steal my thunder here. Don't steal my sunshine. Let's take this break, and when we come back, we'll let you know who it is. Are you rocking with FanDuel yet? Because if you're not, now is the perfect time because you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet hits. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Check out that FanDuel app. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so our first contestant on today's episode played for 8 MLB teams, signed with the Minnesota Twins on August 28th, 2009, and was brought back the next year. Lefty specialist, and his big league career ended in 2010 with the Twins. His age 39 season, again, 8 teams. I'm just going to read them off because then this is kind of fun to see if people listening can guess who it is. Texas, Kansas City, Boston, Minnesota, Cubs, A's, Braves, Marlins. Any guess? I mean, I know you have access to the list, but I doubt you've looked at it.
You are correct. I always forget to go look. I don't know.
Ron Mayhay.
And
so emblematic of the time he came up, 8.0 Fangraphs WAR, Baseball Reference WAR. Got to get my wars correct. And 14 seasons, but he made 514 appearances, 568 innings, 100 games finished, 3 games started way back in the beginning of his career in like the late 90s with the A's. And then 4 saves. So again, like a very, very specific role carved out for a guy like this that doesn't really exist anymore. It's kind of fun to kind of go back and look at the guys like Ron Mayhay, Aaron Foltz. I don't know, does Alan Embry count? I'm trying to think of all like the lefty specialists that come to mind. And like you could take so many different avenues. There's guys who were the sidearm guys who could get lefties out but shouldn't face righties. There were guys who kind of were just soft tossers that were kind of cover your eyes when they're facing righties. And then there were some guys who could get both out but just weren't asked to. With Mayhay, it's definitely a specialist thing, though. He did average more than an inning per appearance, which, again, we're probably not going to see that ever again, just based on how baseball is structured these days.
I don't know if we'll have – I guess we'll probably have the 3 straight batter rule forever, but baseball has a bunch of rules that I don't know that they need with the pitch clock in place that sped up the game. So yeah, there are some things that maybe we'll see again down the road. But Mayhay was as I recall him, he threw hard. There were some guys who did. Aaron Foltz, I don't know, was he a hard throwing guy? Maybe I'm thinking of Aaron Lee.
I don't think so.
But yeah. But Mayhay was a big, blonde, handsome, left-handed, studly-looking man. And
he was throwing
hard. Maybe
Mayhay
that's why he faced some righties sometimes.
Well, so we only have velo for the end of Mayhay's career. And so in his age 37 season with the Royals, he was averaging 91.4. Now, again, in today's game, it's not, but factor in lefty, factor in 2008, that's actually pretty good velo from a left-handed reliever at age 37.
Early 2000s with the Cubs, I seem to recall 95, which, in those days was...
He had no command.
That's fast enough, but...
He had no command, so you're probably right.
Right. And the Cubs generally had no command over him either. So, he never did. Yeah. He never got into a game, or did he?
No, he did. It's the next guy who didn't. Mayhay, I think he was designated by the Rangers the year before because he came over just before the waiver deadline back in the day, but he was a signing. It wasn't a trade because, as people might know, the waiver deal was usually a month after, and he signed as a free agent. So it wasn't a trade. He was released by the Royals a few days earlier. So a late season DFA, and then just kind of a wing and a prayer thing. Twins had an era where they were looking for left-handed relievers for a long time, and we've talked about a few of them. Sean Henn and Fultz applies. Dennis Reyes was probably the best success rate that they had of any of them. So Mayhay went from a 4.79 ERA, 1.79 WHIP, 5.81 FIP with the Royals to, in 16 appearances, a 2.00 WHIP, ERA, in 9 innings, so not a lot of innings. He made 16 appearances, 9 innings. So again, speaking to the specialist role that the Twins would have used him in down the stretch there. Then they bring him back the next year and similarly average, decent, whatever. But in 2009, to think about the landscape of the AL Central in 2009, you would be facing Jim Thome, I think, was with the White Sox at that point.
Yeah.
Is that the Hafner era? There was an era there where there were some pretty good left-handed bats that the Twins would be facing. You're talking about the stretch run for an 2009 team that had the miraculous division win over the Tigers at the Metrodome in the last game at the Metrodome outside of that year's postseason. They brought him in, and he did a fairly good job as a specialist. I'm sure if you were to go back and look at the batters he faced 39 in 16 appearances. So it comes out to about 2 per appearance. He's probably facing, your Jim Thomes,
Curtis Granderson.
Yeah. Granderson had some pretty big splits, I think, against lefties, at least at certain points in his career. Trying to think of who else would have been in the division. Those are the 2 big ones that come to mind. And so, filled a role and filled it well, and they brought him back for cheap the next year. And then that was a wrap. But for a 14-year MLB career and, pretty average, ordinary numbers, Baseball Reference has him making just a touch under $11 million. And that doesn't include salaries for, just includes salaries for 7 of those seasons. So
going after Grady Sizemore, Shin-Soo
Yep. The SS Choo. I think
Victor Martinez. I think he was a switch hitter, but
sure. But there are a lot of those guys you could turn around and they were not as good from the other side. And so, Mayhay had a role, and the Twins used him to fill that. Now, someone who had a role but never actually filled it, our next guy, is Clay Condrey. Now, he signed with the Twins on where were you on January 6th, 2010, Clay Condrey? Well, I was signing with the Minnesota Twins. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And he actually came down with, I want to say, a pretty severe shoulder injury. He had been acceptable with the Phillies the year before. And this was really emblematic of this era of the Twins, whether it was Terry Ryan at the time or Bill Smith. I think 2009 into 10, I want to say Bill Smith. I think Terry Ryan hadn't come back yet. But anyway, 3.00 ERA in 45 appearances. Big stocky guy, by the way, 6'3". They list him at 195. I want to say he was a little bigger than that. But 5.4 strikeouts per 9, 3.0 walks per 9. About as uninspiring of a batted or a peripheral profile as you can come up with. And yet he was a target for the Twins back in the day.
Well, he had a bunch of good, results-wise anyway. his results and his peripheral numbers were pretty consistent. He had like a 447 FIP for his career, and his substantial seasons with the Phillies, like 2006 to 2009, 433 FIP, 446, 419, 422, and had a couple of ERAs that were in the threes 3 out of those 4 years.
But the Phillies non-tendered him, so I mean, it wasn't like he was and we also have to remember this. The era of relievers was different. It wasn't, not everybody was Billy Wagner incarnate throwing crazy fastballs with strikeouts everywhere. Right. Guys like this is a Matt Guerrier kind of pitcher.
Well, non-tendered, I bet that has something to do with the fact that he was getting high arbitration time. So he probably was he was basically in his 5th season at that point by the time he was non-tendered. So
he'd been DFA'd 3 times in just before 2007 alone. Like that's amazing. And he had an elbow issue. So elbow bothered him. I want to say it was in spring training, and he never pitched again.
Right. Not a big strikeout dude. So 143 career strikeouts in 250 innings, 87 walks. So, 25 home runs. There's probably a bunch of guys in AAA that maybe could have had a similar career to Clay Condrey, but he got a chance to stick around for 6 years in the major leagues. So,
and that was the era
working out with the Twins, though.
Twins fans were screaming for Anthony Slamma and Rob. He's got the same name as a comedian, Rob. Oh, famous comedian named Rob.
Rob Schneider?
No, like Twitter famous. Rob. I can't think of it. But Anthony Slamma and Rob, this other guy, I'll remember it in a little bit, were kind of like the relievers of the week in the minors that were putting up just crazy numbers. And Rob Delaney.
The comedian, Rob Delaney. Yes. I didn't catch up on your...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So those are the 2 guys that were just putting up crazy numbers in the minor leagues in Rochester, and just never was going to happen. Anyway, those are actually probably the 2 lesser known names that we'll talk about in this episode. Let's take our final pause, and then when we come back, we'll hit some pretty big, relatively speaking, names, including a really fun one at the end that I bet people have forgotten about. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. I know I want to keep my family's finances all in line. I have 2 younger children. I have a home that I own. I have vehicles. I want to make sure that that's all taken care of. And that's where SelectQuote comes into play, because it's one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Go to SelectQuote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Now, I know that any fan of baseball for a long time has probably heard this name. We're not going to a thrift shop, although the Twins did to sign this guy. Mark McLemore was a Twin in 2010. And if you are curious about how much no, you know what? I've got egg on my face here. This is not the same Mark McLemore. I feel like a real.
There was another Mark McLemore. I don't even remember that.
This is incredible. There was another Mark McLemore, and he was a left-handed pitcher
for the Astros.
I thought for sure, like, I completely must have just memory hold this one, but Mark McLemore, the left-handed pitcher.
All right, so
incredible.
This guy, he did sign with the Twins.
You did. No, you did.
He's relevant to the show, but he's not the guy who was the Rangers broadcaster who was the Angels utility man and stuff.
No, he was, and that Mark McLemore was around forever. How is this for like on air? I spent my entire life thinking that like it was that Mark McLemore. That's, when your whole life is a lie. Wow.
Do I? Yeah, that Mark McLemore hadn't played since 2004, so he'd been out of the league for 3 years, and then they like retro engineered a new one who was a
white,
pitcher,
left-handed, with a soul patch.
15 years younger, the junior of a Mark McLemore. Wow.
I feel like such an idiot. And again, I'm sure people will probably hammer me for preparation, but I had spent my entire fandom thinking the Twins brought a very old utility man to camp, because at that time the Twins were always looking for infield help. They were starting guys like Nick Punto. They were starting guys like Matt Tolbert, Lexi Casilla, Lexi. They were doing a lot of different things infield wise, and I had, for whatever reason, that had been in my mind that they had brought him into spring training when in fact it was a lefty who never again pitched in the major leagues after his 2007 stint.
Well, I have no memory of him, and I think here's my defense. 2007, I was working for the Northwest Herald, and I was covering the Cubs and the White Sox, and so I wasn't in the national headspace at that time. So the Astros bringing up new Mark McLemore, I can see how I missed it because he didn't come back.
Who were you covering at that time?
The Cubs and the White Sox.
Okay, because I mean, I was thinking if it was White Sox heavy, the Astros were an NL team at that point too. So
were they? Let's see.
Maybe that's a built-in excuse.
He did visit the Cubs on September 2nd, so it is possible that I was around, but I don't. I do not remember him existing. That's
incredible content. Well, hey, that was on January 21st, 2010. He was out of there by the end of March. Another guy they signed February 3rd of that year. And now this was the spring training lead up to Target Field. And this is important for our last guy. But a left-handed pitcher who was a legend on the was it 2003 that the Tigers were wretched?
Yeah, the 119 losses.
So in 2003, this guy lost 21 games for the Tigers.
You're talking about Mike Maroth, aren't you?
Mike Maroth came to spring training with the Twins in 2010. Now, keep in mind, he was a 0.2 WAR pitcher that year. He lost 21 games. He was actually 3.3 Baseball Reference WAR worthy in 2004. And then it was pretty quiet after that. Minus 2.3 in 2007. And 3 years later, the Twins are like, pick him up. So not only was he terrible in his last big league season, but it was 3 years before this. Now, again, it's a minor league deal. You can't screw those up too much. But listen to how much damage he did with the Cardinals as an age 29 lefty in 2007 in 38 innings. Minus 2.4 Baseball Reference WAR. That is an unthinkable number in 38 innings. His ERA, 10.66. His whip, 2.32. 16.8 homers per nine. 2.6 home runs per nine. His FIP, 7.29. So he didn't quite deserve that 10.66 ERA. But
he faced 203 batters.
Yep.
71 of them got hits.
Yeah. And then they got the 17 walks, intentional one of them. So give him credit. And then hit a couple guys too. No box though. I mean, hang your head on something.
I suppose. Oh man. Yeah, I remember the 2003 season when people were debating, should you take him out of the rotation so he doesn't lose 20 games like Brian Kingman did, and or like
didn't Jeremy Bonderman lose like 17 that year too? I think.
Oh, probably. I'll look here. Let's see. Yeah, Maroth was 9-21. Poor Alan Trammell. Why'd they do that to him? Why?
No, for real though. Like
Jeremy Bonderman, 19 losses.
Okay,
Nate Cornejo, 17 losses.
I remember Nate Cornejo. Yep.
Adam Bernero, 1-12.
Sheesh.
Matt Roney, who I don't really remember, 1-9.
I think he was a lefty, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a big lefty.
Who was?
Nope, big righty. Matt Roney. I'm thinking of Matt Riley. I think was a big lefty.
Here's a funny thing. Mike Maroth, 9-21 record, 0.2 WAR. So he was positive WAR.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, you did. Okay, sorry.
But Steve Sparks, knuckleballing legend, 0-6. Let's see, how many guys had a better than 500 record? Jamie Walker, pretty good reliever, as I recall, 4-3. And Steve Avery, not
Steve Avery on the team. Unbelievable.
Yeah, not that Stephen Avery.
He won 2 starts. Well, he didn't have 2 starts, but he had 2 victories.
He pitched in the first game I ever saw at the Metrodome, first big league game I ever went to for the Red Sox.
Who was on this team?
I'm
Brian Schmack, one of their better pitchers. Actually, he had a 3.46 ERA, 11 games. Brian Schmack, he was in the grade below me at Rolling Meadows High School and Holmes Junior High.
No kidding.
And I believe John Jay Elementary. So he would have been. Yeah, and so he finally, I remember following Brian Schmack in the paper. Like they had the local guys in the minor leagues in the Tribune on Sunday and their stats. It's like, oh, I hope Brian Schmack gets called up, and he finally did. And it was with the Tigers, who lost 119 games.
John Jay played for the Cubs, right? Like the John Jay, not the Federalist, but the baseball player.
Yeah, he did. Well, and the Cardinals, of course.
I thought it would be fun to do.
He was a White Sox for half an hour.
John Jay, Cub,
Jingleheimer
Candelario.
Yeah, he was. Oh, he modeled a few. Cardinals 6 years.
Yeah.
Arizona 2 years. Cubs 1 year. Padres, White Sox, Royals, Angels. Never picked up by the Twins, though. That's sort of the point of what
I followed baseball religiously that year, and there's some names that I don't remember. Eric Eckenstaller. And then there's some remembering some guys. Nate Robertson.
I installed my own Eck, so I did not bring him in to do that for me.
No maintenance Eck. Fernando Rodney was on that team, 26 years old. Matt Anderson, I remember being, I think, a pretty good reliever.
I think Fernando Rodney's on the Hall of Fame ballot, isn't he?
You should probably know that.
I should probably know that.
Anyway, the last one is we're, obviously flying well into overtime. February 23rd, 2010. So one day after my 24th birthday.
Wow.
The Twins brought back an old friend. And this old friend was part of the Soul Patrol outfield. And I don't know how much you know of that, but there was actually...
Sounds like some Jock Jones would be involved in.
No. Yes, exactly. It was like a Matt Lawton, Torrey Hunter, Jock Jones. And then when Matt Lawton moved on, I think they kind of shoehorned Shannon Stewart in there as the fourth. And then Jones eventually left.
Shoehorned Shannon Stewart.
And then Jones was with the Cubs, had a decent year that first year, second year, meh. And then he was pretty much done by 33. He played for the Tigers. And then do you know who he finished his career with? Because I don't have any recollection of this. 18 games in 2008. Hint, the team has changed names since then.
Oh,
First names. Nope. The Marlins. I had completely forgotten Jock Jones played for the Marlins.
It's only 18 games, so
didn't really remember
about. He did not. Yeah, he had some home runs, stole some bases.
Yeah. And anyway, he actually stuck it out for 96 games in Rochester in 2010. But he played in the exhibition opener series at Target Field. I want to say it was the Cardinals. And he got like the announcement that he was coming to the plate and the fanfare. And, it was a lot of fun because the stadium was just opening. They hadn't played their first game yet. In fact, I'm looking right now at a picture in my office of the first game against the Red Sox on April 12th. And it was a little before then they had that little exhibition series. And so he got to play that. If I knew, I had forgotten that he went to Rochester that year and played in 96 games, hit 4 home runs. So again, slugged 386. He had 280, 319, 386, which if you're playing center field with good speed and good defense is a pretty dang good player. When you're 35 in AAA, less so. But put a bow on his career. He had played at Newark the year before. I feel like there were a lot of players with some pretty interesting names who went through Newark in that era.
Jock Jones, to me, it's funny that he only played 24 games with the Tigers. It seems like that would have been a place where he could have gone 3 or 4 years, but his early 30s were not kind to him. I don't know if he had injuries or he always had a big hole in his swing. So maybe that was just exploited and never really adjusted to.
He could hit the ball the other way with authority, and I feel like it would be Torrey Hunter could too. Torrey Hunter had his share of home runs over the baggie that the opposite field home runs from those guys were not that aesthetically pleasing, but they were well stroked. That sounded bad. But yeah, Jones kind of uncharacteristically let off for Ron Gardenhire in a few of these years.
Yeah, I remember that. That didn't make any sense.
Like his career high in walks with the Twins was 51 in 2005, and I think he'd been done leading off by that point. Like 315, 333, 335, 319. Fun player, probably not sabermetrically exciting, but that 2002 season, the first year the Twins broke through and made the playoffs, 300, 341, 511, 27 home runs, 37 doubles, swiped a couple bases, but wasn't particularly efficient. That's probably the year I remember Jock the most for. 852 OPS from a guy who could run in the outfield. He couldn't throw a lick. In fact, his famous thing was that he'd throw about a 57 hopper home every time. But at the Metrodome, that was okay because of how the turf would,
spongy,
right,
sponge-worthy turf.
Although, love that reference. That was a lot better early in his career before they added the field turf than. I
remember the bouncier stuff. Yes, earlier.
I was like playing on a cement parking lot. I mean, literally, I don't know how guys survived that.
I kind of, people always rip the Metrodome, and it's not that it didn't deserve it, but it was quirky and it was different. And I think those are two things. People said, well, it's not baseball in there. The haters, and I'm like, well, there's one thing about baseball is that the home fields tended to be different than the other home field back in the day. And it was more out of necessity and maybe accident. But that was to me, it was nice that there was a place like the Metrodome, because I certainly wouldn't want every field to be like it, but I liked that it was there for the Twins. It was part of playing the Twins, and it was neat. Sometimes the Twins had players that conformed to the dimensions and the kind of field it was. Kirby Puckett was a good Metrodome player, and Herbeck, and so it's I'm glad it was there. That's obviously everybody would take Target Field in a second. It's one of the 5 or 3 or whatever best parks. Yeah. But we all know I'm a fan of the Metrodome. Well, maybe we don't all know that, but
it was a dump, but it was our dump, I think, is the takeaway there. Yeah. Well, we're going to do a double dip. We've got 5 more, actually 6 more. It's a special edition coming up a little later here on Saturday of more free agents that you forgot about. Probably a little more for good reason on this next episode. But I'm having a lot of fun kind of going back in time, and hopefully our banter is endearing, if nothing else. It's charming, if nothing else. And you got to see my little man. So for Curtis and Dave Brown, this is Brandon Warren signing off, saying thank you so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Twins, and we'll see ya
a
little later today. Tomorrow night.
Well, maybe then too.
Yeah.
But not then only.
Right.
Excited?